brand helps you get awareness for yourself, but also for your business. And then what happens is you're out there speaking or writing, people trust you, people start to listen to you. And then when they're ready to buy, you'll be one of the first people they think about to come and say, does she offer this? And at least if you don't, you can refer them to somebody, but you become that resource and that trusted resource that people look to when they're ready to spend money.
Welcome to the Marketing for the Culture podcast, powered by the African American Marketing Association. Each week, we'll bring you an insightful conversation from some of the best experts in our industry on how to advance our career. Join the collective of Black marketers across the world, advancing their brand as we work towards creating a collaborative community. Hey, good people, welcome back to another episode of Marketing for the Culture podcast. Today's special guest is Amie Thompson. She is the president and CEO of Creative Allies. Amie, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Like you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Creative Allies. We are a digital marketing firm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we primarily work with other entrepreneurs and help support their marketing. We focus on website design, social media, copywriting, video. We kind of do a lot, but our real goal is to make sure that the owner, the founder, the CEO can focus on running their business and then let us handle the marketing. I've been doing this since 2018. And prior to that, I was more in corporate America, but I've always done sales and marketing. Something related to sales and marketing has been my pretty much my entire career. I've worked in healthcare, in technology, and then also on the entertainment side.
Oh, very cool. Now, I love the name. So what was the inspiration behind the name Creative Allies?
Well, I cannot take credit for that. So we did buy into the company in 2015. So the company was around since 2009. It is a North Carolina based company. So it started in Asheville. And we loved the name when we first started looking into the company because it's very unique. It's very clear, at least what area that you're going to be focused on. And it's short and sweet. And I think that's really helpful when it comes to branding, is to have something very short that you can use. We're able to have all our socials at Creative Allies, website Creative Allies. Like that really makes a big difference when you talk about branding. And so for us, it's really about what the word says, being creative. And the allies piece of it comes because we actually use a community of creatives to help us do all of our work. So we have about 7 employees at Creative Allies currently, but in the history of the company, there's never been more than 10. So we've always been a very small company, but we have a really great network of creatives, everything from writers to graphic designers to everything creative that you can think of, that we pull into projects when we need them. So if we're working on something bigger or something very specialized, we tap into that community. But that's really how the company started and why it's Creative Allies. It's that idea that we have all of these allies all over the world that help us be creative and do great things for the clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your background in sales and marketing, and it just helped me piece the puzzle together. When you were transitioning into entrepreneurship, were you looking to buy a business, or how was that process?
Definitely not. I never really thought that I would be a full-time entrepreneur. So I have always had kind of side hustles here and there, invested in other companies, but I was very comfortable making money and just going to work and kind of punching the clock. And then at a certain point, a couple of years ago, I just got tired of that. And I felt like I wasn't working for a purpose. I was just working for money. And so I wanted to just kind of figure that out. So in 2017, I left my job and just decided, I had good money saved up, so I had enough to take some months off. I wanted to travel a little bit and just figure out what I wanted to do. And I had that opportunity and that luxury to do that. And a couple months turned into a year, and a year turned into like a year and a half. And in that time frame is when I got more involved in Creative Allies. And then I started working with some of the clients, doing some of the projects and realizing, this might be something I'm interested in doing full time. And then in 2018, the opportunity just came up that, we needed to fill a CEO position. And I was like, you know what? I think I might be able to do this. And I was, just a little bit, pat myself on the back. I'm like, I don't think anybody else can do this better than me. So I decided to, take the plunge, and the board was supportive of giving me that opportunity because I've not run a company before. And that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years. So it was not intentional at all. I like to say accidental entrepreneur. But I love it. I definitely wouldn't want to go back to traditional, corporate America.
Wow, very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Like
you.
it's refreshing to hear a story like this. Like
Mm,
at least among my network, I can't think of anyone that resonates with this kind of story. We just,
mm.
especially with the assumption of a small business, we just assume the founder, the CEO is the founder,
That's right. Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. It's a little different. Yeah, for sure. But it should open people's eyes to the opportunity that there are probably businesses out there that you can acquire and you can purchase, because in our case, the founders of the company, they just wanted to do something different. They just wanted to move on. And
Guilty.
so kind of the stars were just a bit aligned for just the timing and everything was right. But when you're getting into running a business, you don't always have to start from scratch. Like there are situations out there, if you do some research, where you might find that you can take over someone else's company, which means you're taking on existing clients and client relationships, and it puts you in a little bit of a better position. There are some downsides to it, but it puts you in a little bit of a better position when it comes to selling and bringing in revenue.
With that being said, what are maybe two or three things that we should consider when
Mm,
investing into a business
mm.
or pursuing buying, I guess buying a business or assuming the CEO role?
Yeah. I think in, let's say, buying a business, I'll start with that. I mean, money is obviously the biggest thing, right? You want to understand how they're using their money. What we see a lot, not necessarily Creative Allies, but just in general, a lot of times people get funding and they spend a lot of money on salaries. And they think everybody should be making a certain amount of money. And then they don't have money to invest in marketing or in sales to actually get clients and bring in revenue. So you want to take a look at those financials and see what kind of decisions are being made. And is it the right, is it the right mindset to grow a business? The last thing you want is a company that's real top heavy and has a COO and a CFO and all of these things where people are making all the money and then you don't have enough left to invest in the business. So I'd say that's one huge thing to look out for. The other one is debt. That is the one that I ran into a lot, is going into a company when you acquire it, you take on everything, the positives and the negatives. And so it is a little bit frustrating, running a business where you're seeing traction, but you're still repaying debt that you didn't actually, it's yours because you run the business now, but you didn't necessarily acquire it. And so that's something else to be, obviously when you're going through due diligence, to really dig into those numbers and making sure you understand what you're signing up to take over, I think is very important. People are the other aspect. I would say right now, no employees that are currently working for us, were a part of the original company. And so it's just a matter of making sure that the employees that are there, that they have that right mindset, because we did change kind of the focus of the business a little bit. And so making sure that the employees that are there have that right mindset. For us, it was a good mindset and we had a good group of people that allowed us to transition in the right way.
Yeah.
So we had like those same employees staying for about a year and a half or so. And then we were able to not in a hurry, we were able to transition into the company that we are now. So those are a couple of things to look out for if you're going to buy a business or acquire a business or really invest in a business.
Yeah. Yeah. That debt. For all the people that say they're not a numbers person.
You better become one because those people want their money. And so even if you didn't take out the debt, you owe the debt. So you got to be careful about that.
Nah, I appreciate you keeping it real. We want the title, but what comes with the title?
Yes,
the bad and the ugly. So we're gonna.
that's right. That's right.
Okay, so with sales,
Mhm.
I love this because I just love your experience. You have sales, you have CEO, and especially in today's climate with social media, content creation, content creators, I'm creative. I want to create,
Mhm.
right? but to assume the sell,
Yep.
that's tough when you get these emails like, hey, I want to work with you, but you don't know what to charge, how to
Yeah.
go through that process.
Yeah.
So can you just provide some insight on creating a sales process and what that should look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Sales is very interesting. While I have a history of working in sales and marketing, I was never a salesperson. So I was always support, operational, pricing, contracts, process is what I did. So that was actually helpful for me because I understood the background of things, like you said, like pricing and things like that. As a CEO, business development is the majority of my job. In order to make sure I can pay my employees and everything, I have to sell and get new projects. So for me, it's a bit more of a means to an end. It's something that has to be done. It's not something whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. It has to be done. And with our freelancers and our creatives, I get it. Nobody wants to do the sales and marketing piece. They just want to do the work. They want to do the video, they want to do the writing or the design or whatever. But I think one of the best pieces of advice I could give is think of sales not as sales, but think of it more of relationships. And what you're doing is you're building a relationship with someone to be able to have that client, hopefully forever. And so it's like if you do it right one time, the chances are if you do the sales process correctly and then you do the work correctly, they're going to keep coming back. And then you don't have to do that sales over again. You just have to keep doing good work. And so I think there are some basic things you need to understand. Understanding how to get business. So who are you reaching out to? We do a lot of referral business, which is great. And so our team's job is to do a great job, do good work, and then people will refer us to other folks in their network. And so that's something to think about. It doesn't feel like that's directly sales, but it is. Asking people for referrals, asking people to introduce you to other folks is another good way to generate business and generate leads. Getting your paperwork right, making sure you're not informal. Make sure you have it does not have to be a long contract, but make sure wherever you are in your business, even if you're just starting, have some type of contract where it's very clear what you're going to do and what you're going to deliver, when you're going to invoice them, how many days they get to pay your invoice, like have all of that written out so that it's easier to go back to someone and say, hey, on line 4, you had agreed to this versus just trying to have a conversation and get people to remember what was said. So that contract piece is really important. And then pricing, I was talking to someone just the other day about that. That is a challenge, particularly for women, and I would say particularly for Black women, of not charging enough and not really understanding how to price, not feeling confident enough to price at the level that you should price. So that's actually a challenge for a lot of people. When you're first starting out, I think you have to play with it a little bit. You have to test. If everybody's saying yes to you, then you're probably not charging enough for sure. If it's too easy to get you, then you're probably not charging enough for sure. But that is something that people should research and try to see what other folks are charging, try to see what other people, maybe not your customers, but people are paying for your type of services, and then not feeling bad when you need to charge because something was out of scope. You need to charge because something, they're asking for something new or what have you. But that is probably one of the biggest struggles I see a lot, and I see in myself, is just that confidence to charge what you're worth and what value you bring.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot on this podcast because earlier this month they had the Forbes list for highest earning TikTok influencers, and there was no Black people on there. And then recently there was a post that's gone viral on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It was an HR person saying, oh, the lady says she wants to get paid $85,000, but our budget's $130,000, and I didn't know her, right?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And one thing I'm always saying is we don't know, like we really don't know the comparison. And I was like, she's getting paid $85,000. Her last job probably only paid her $50,000.
Right. So it sounds great. Right. Right.
Stop shaming us.
Yeah.
Because of that, like we really do need some education and some coaching.
Yeah.
And, I think we need more people to be like, hey, jobs like this, companies like this, they pay this.
Yeah. it is a tough one. I did see that. And yeah, that's, I think, probably why we were talking about that the other day, because it's like, where is the education? Where do I'm not sure I ever remember going through any kind of training about how to negotiate price or salary or anything like that. And so how do you get better at that? Because I think on the male side, they're just naturally more, arrogant, not necessarily better, but just more arrogant to ask for something, whether they believe they're worth it or not. And we're the opposite, where we might think we're great, but we're still hesitant to ask for something more. So it is a challenge. We need to work together to figure that one out, because there is some definite education that could be given there. And it boils over to small business owners too, of knowing how to set your prices. And I suffer from that. I just raised prices this year after 3 years of the same price. And it's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? What are you thinking? And so it's just, that's just a big struggle, I think. Yeah.
I participated in a focus group the other day, and we were talking about creating programs for salary negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I've, for my standards, podcasts, YouTube, books, I've definitely had those moments where I'm like, okay, I know I'm going in for a salary increase. Let me study all I can on salary negotiations. And I'm reading and watching all of these white men, and I'm negotiating against the white man. I didn't get very far, right? Yeah. But I was like, so yesterday in the focus group, I was like, you know what? I need to learn this from a Black woman. Right. I need to learn salary negotiations from a Black woman and that experience, so I can share my experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And be like, what are these hurdles? Because I wasn't able to apply what I thought I learned.
Yeah. I think it would be a really interesting piece of programming if we can just get better at it. We're not going to solve that problem completely, but just to get better. And I do think it is a lot about confidence, and really also, one other thing too is being okay with walking away. I think that's the other problem too, is making sure you have an alternative, you have some other plan B of another job, or at least some warm leads of other jobs, so that when someone wants to pay you less than what you're worth, you're like, okay, cool. And then you go somewhere else. Because I think part of it is, when you're really great at your job, people don't want to lose you. And they certainly don't want to lose you for $5,000 or $10,000. If they're a company that can afford that, they're going to find the money to pay you. So it is better to just ask for it. But at the same time, you are risking that, you'll have to look somewhere else for a job. You know what I mean? If you don't get what you want. So it's tricky.
I've been there. And my mom, she's like, Michelle, you're so proudful. And I'm like, the principal, I can't go back. Like, what did I create?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I used to work. I mean, when I did work in corporate America, part of my job was HR. And so I always just tried to be honest with people. If they were looking for more money, that's not in the budget, just try to explain to them. I think the other part is, a lot of times people equate salary with how long they've worked somewhere, what kind of education they have. And that's just not the case for every company. It's what kind of value are you adding? How are you making the company better or the team better? And the more you make the company or the team better, the harder it will be, and the more expensive it'll be to let you go. And so a lot of it too is thinking about how we look at salary. Salary is just not showing up to work and showing up consistently. It's much more than that. So really thinking about, the value and ways you can add value, not just doing your exact job, but other ways you can add value. But I think there's a lot that we do not learn in school. That's one of the things that is a little disappointing when I see stuff about what we should have learned in school. It's like negotiating and getting the right job, all those things. They don't teach you any of that. They don't teach you any of that.
It's funny, now as a business owner where I'm hiring, I feel like I try to be more mindful and conscious when I do have conversations with my team, whereas I'm like, okay, maybe I can't give you the increase, but let's talk about a bonus structure. And, my team has been very welcoming to that. So it's always something to consider.
Yeah.
So I do want to pivot a little bit. I would love to hear your take on personal brand and how that relates to business development.
Yeah. Yeah, personal branding is really huge. One of the things that I often tell people when I first started in 2018 running the business, I didn't realize how important having a personal brand was to the success of my business. My thinking was, of course, like I mentioned, we bought a business, so it wasn't brand new. We had some credibility and brand equity, but people don't care. They want to know who you are. They want to know that you're trustworthy. And then if you're trustworthy, that means your team is, that means I can write you a check. And so when you're a small business, you really are the brand, no matter what your company sells or what your company does. And so it's important for you to have kind of a niche on your own. It doesn't have to be exactly what your company does, but just something that you have experience in, something you can talk about, you can write about, so that as you build a brand, people kind of look at you as X. They see you and they're like, they know what you're going to talk about, what you're going to share, and things like that. And that brand helps you get awareness for yourself, but also for your business. And then what happens is you're out there speaking or writing, people trust you, people start to listen to you. And then when they're ready to buy, you'll be one of the first people they think about to come and say, does she offer this? And at least if you don't, you can refer them to somebody, but you become that resource and that trusted resource that people look to when they're ready to spend money. So it's very, very important.
Yeah, it's so important to stay top of mind.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, they kind of they try to debate me, especially when it comes to social media, as
Mhm.
like no one's paying attention to Facebook pages, Facebook company pages, LinkedIn company pages. And I'm like, I post on there daily because you just never know.
Yeah.
And I say that I don't necessarily get business from those pages. Like I don't have direct sales from those pages, but I do think I have business in general because my client can see brand consistency
Right.
from my website to my social,
Yeah.
just my overall digital footprint.
Yeah. And I think you might not know if you get business because someone could see it and maybe refer someone to you and say,
That's
I
true
saw this
too.
post about whatever. So I agree. You don't have to spend, all your day on social, but I do agree you need to have a presence and it needs to be positive. It needs to be focused again on what that niche is or what you want people to remember about you. But you can't control when people are ready to buy. You can't control what they see about you unless you're the one putting it out there. And so you want to make sure that you're telling the right narrative, that you want people to see about you.
I know I try to talk to a lot of college students
Mhm.
as much as possible about marketing careers. What's your take? I feel like everyone wants to be a strategist. No, did I hit a nerve? Okay. And I'm like, yeah, but you got to get some experience. Like you have to, execute
Yeah. Yeah.
for a couple of years before you can become a
Yeah.
strategist. Um, so yeah, what's your take about just, I guess, marketing strategist, business
Yeah.
development from entry level into senior/ CEO roles?
Yeah. I think that I laugh because I just had a call about an hour ago and a potential client was wanting us to put a marketing strategy together. And I was like, oh, we'll do that. But just to be clear, I'm only going to spend about a week on it because a strategy is only as good as how well it's executed and how much money it makes you and on all that stuff. So I don't like to spend a ton of time on strategy. I like to get something in place and then test it and then measure it and then see what works. I think the worst thing especially as a small business, we don't have the luxury of tons of cash to just spend on strategy. It sounds great, but it's not that practical. And so I like to try to get people to understand putting a strategy in place or a plan in place is great, but then you have to execute. There are so many people who have strategies laying around and they've never done anything with the information. They just pay money. It's like, it's crazy, but it's true, but it's true. So I think strategy is one of those buzzwords that, not that it doesn't mean anything. It certainly means something. But I think that if you're interested in marketing, really focus a bit more on some metrics and focus a bit more on how you add. To me, the biggest thing in anything you do is how you add value to the company. And so if that's through marketing, great. If it's through sales, great. But how do you add value? That's the way you become meaningful. That's the way you become a great resource. That's the way people don't want to get rid of you. They want to promote you. All of that stuff is because you're finding ways to add value. That could be something on social media. It could be in a video. It could be in so many different things, but try to focus on adding value, not just on the marketing buzzwords or like what's trendy marketing speak. But a strategy is a plan. It's just a plan. So put together that plan. I also believe people shouldn't plan too far in advance. So having like an 18-month marketing strategy, probably not great. You don't know what's going to happen in the world in 18 months. So focus on small things, do 90 days first, and then see if what you put together is working. If not, go back, change it up a little bit and try something else. But for college students who want a career in marketing, really focus on what you can do or what you can learn how to do that adds value to a business, I think would be the best piece of advice I'd try to give.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything else you think we should touch on, like within your expertise down?
Not really. I think you touched on most everything. Personal branding is something that I think is very important. I'll say the other thing we didn't mention, content generation, is very, very important. That's something I'm very focused on this year for us as a company and also for my clients. I think people, particularly small business owners, we have so much information, insight, knowledge, but it's all in our head. And sometimes we're so busy. I don't have time to post on social. I don't have time to do this. But it's really what helps you, kind of goes together with personal branding. But that content production is really what makes you the expert, because you do know this information and you do have the experience. You have the project experience behind you, but you have to tell someone. You can't just have it in your head and have it in your experience. You have to share that with people, make it so people can learn from the experiences that you have. And so creating that content is something very, very important. And then the part B of that, I guess, is repurposing that content. And so when you create a video, for example, take that video and make blog posts, take that video and make smaller, little videos take that video and do audio clips, like take what you're spending time to do and maybe money to do and make the most content out of it. And that's going to help you, just help you fill up your schedule and your social media schedule and everything without having to redo things over and over again. So I'm very big on creating content, but also repurposing content. That would be the other thing I would hope that people think about and how they could see how they can incorporate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. Absolutely. I think, I started off building my company because of content marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was helping business owners. They're like, I don't understand social media. And I'm like, you have to create content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So once we get to creation, you know what to post on these distribution channels.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, Amie, I appreciate your time today.
Sure.
How can people get in contact with you?
Absolutely. We can, our website is creativeallies.com. So if you want to check out the website, see what we do and what we offer. You can also follow me on Twitter, which I've been trying to be more active on. And that is Amie, AMIE_CEO. And so you can follow me there, but I love talking to other business owners. And so if you have something that you just want to chat about, reach out to me. Most people don't do that. So don't be afraid to reach out. We can set up 15, 20 minutes and just chat. Just talk about business, talk about marketing, and you just don't know what ideas I might be able to share with you, or vice versa, what ideas you might be able to share with me. But I'm very big on learning from other people and sharing what I know as well. So please feel free to reach out.
I love it. Y'all can hit her up after my session. Okay. So we'll definitely have those links in the show notes. Once again, thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely.
With the Marketing for the Culture podcast. Remember, I believe in you. Thank you for listening to Marketing for the Culture podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe, whether it's on Apple, Google, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And of course, our videos are on YouTube. If you have a moment, feel free to give us a rate, review, or just comment. We appreciate our sponsors for their continuous support. Also, if you're interested in learning more about our sponsors or becoming a member of the African American Marketing Association, visit aa-ma.org.